Hello and welcome. My name is Martin Leineck. I am the author of the forthcoming book, The Leader Habit, and I am a CEO at Pinsight, a global leadership development company. My talk today is about reimagining leadership development through habits, and it is based on my research of about 800 managers and executives from around the world. By training, I am an organizational psychologist, but a few years ago, I had an existential crisis because I came across an article in the Journal of Consulting Psychology that made me question whether my work was actually making a difference. And here's what that research study found. So they tracked our investment in leadership development since 1996, and it plotted the investment that American corporations make in leadership development against our macro-level confidence in leadership. And this research study actually found that there is a negative relationship. So we end up spending more and more on leadership development, yet our macro-level confidence in leadership is actually decreasing. And you can see that on this graph right here. So, of course, as a scientist, I decided that I'm going to study this topic. And I designed a research study where, over the course of several years, we tracked 800 managers and executives from around the world. And we didn't just survey them, we actually tested them in a complex simulation. So we put them in this fictitious company, and then we observed them under a microscope, so to speak, so that we could parse out the micro behaviors that make some leaders effective and other leaders not so effective. And the outcome of this research study is a catalog of 22 leadership skills and 79 different micro behaviors that again distinguish great leaders from not so good ones. Now, of course, this is very useful information, and I could present this information to you. And I will give you one of these skills, perhaps a skill that all of you have considered at some point in time, and that is delegation. So we found, for instance, that when effective leaders delegate, they first match projects to skills. So they consider whether the employee is skilled, and they consider what skills are needed to actually get this project completed. Second, they also confirm interests. So they think when they delegate a project or task, whether the employee is actually interested to do this task. And then lastly, when they actually delegate, they specify what needs to be done, but let the employee figure out how to do that. So these are the micro behaviors that we identified in our research. And these are the behaviors that effective leaders do. Now, when I present this information to you in an e-learning course or a classroom training, what will happen is you will forget majority of this information very, very quickly. Some of you might be familiar with this forgetting curve from psychology. And what it tells us is that 1 hour after you learn some new information, you forget or you only remember 65%. A day later, you only remember half of it, and a week later, you only remember 15%. So this is why many estimate that people only apply 10% of what they learn in training to their job. But let me ask you this. How many of you remember today to make your bed? How many of you remember to drink coffee or take a shower? How many of you remember to wash your hair, brush your teeth, eat breakfast? These are all habits, and we remember our habits. And that is the key to leadership development, is to take these micro behaviors that we identified in our research and turn them into lasting habits for employees. When I started Pinsight about 8 years ago, I did everything myself. I was a one-man band. But the company grew very quickly, and I needed to hire employees. Well, I thought, I have a PhD in psychology. I've been working as a consultant all around the world. So, of course, I know best how to do every single job in the company. As you can imagine, I developed this bad habit of micromanaging people, and it wasn't pleasant. So I did what any smart young manager would do. I wrote on a Post-it that said, "Stop micromanaging people." And then I stuck it on my desk. Now, some of you might think that this is an actionable behavior, and this is a way for me to build a new habit, but it is not. And let me demonstrate why. So let's do an experiment together. Take a look at this slide. What do you see on this picture? Yes, it's an elephant. Now, what I'm going to do is ask you to stop thinking about the elephant. Whatever you do, just stop thinking about the elephant. Don't think about the elephant. Let me help you. I'll take the picture off. Please don't think about the elephant. Do you see how difficult that is? The more you try to stop thinking about something, the more you actually obsess about that very thing. So we cannot build habits on not doing something. We need something better. What we need is an incompatible behavior. Now, some parents in the room might be already familiar with this concept. When your child starts running in the street, you can of course yell, "Stop running," or you could reinforce an incompatible behavior. You could tell the child, "Walk," because walking and running are incompatible. Your kid cannot walk and run at the same time. So what is incompatible with micromanaging people? We already saw that behavior. It's specifying what to do, but not telling the employee how to do that. And we could be much more prescriptive than that. So I could write out and script what I'm going to say when I delegate next a task or project. I could say, "I'd like you to figure out how to do X. How do you think you'll do that?" And by framing it as a question, especially the second part, I'm now forcing myself not to specify how to do their job. So that's the first part. We have a micro behavior, but to turn it into a habit, we need one more thing. What we need is a cue. And many of us use sticky notes or alarms on our phones as cues to trigger us to do certain behaviors, serve as reminders. But this is not effective. What happens when this sticky note falls off your desk? Or what happens if you forget to set your phone, the alarm on your phone? So we need something better. We need something that is naturally embedded in the environment while we are trying to practice that behavior. I'll give you an example of what a really good cue looks like. Here, take a look. It's a cinema. What is the first thing, what is the first food you think about when you go to the cinema or when you think of cinema? Of course, it's popcorn. In fact, this association between cinema and popcorn is so strong that you're willing to spend $8 for a bucket of this treat. So the cinema is an organic, natural cue. It naturally happens in the environment where you're trying to practice the behavior or where you do the behavior. And researchers found that the best natural cue is usually the end of an event or task. So to find a natural cue, all you have to do is ask yourself this question. What naturally happens right before X? What naturally happens right before the micro behavior that you're trying to practice or remember to practice? For me, it was the decision to delegate. So when I think about not micromanaging people, when I think about specifying what needs to be done, but not telling people how to do that, my trigger and my reminder is going to be the decision to delegate. And now I have what I call a leader habit exercise. So I have a natural cue after an event or task finishes, after I decide to delegate, and I pair the natural cue with an actionable behavior. So I specify what needs to be done, either in an email or in a conversation, but let the employee figure out how to do that. So this is a format of all leader habit exercises. After an event or task finishes, then you do the micro behavior. This is a good start, but it's not a habit yet. We of course have to practice it. So naturally you're wondering, how long will this take? How long do you have to practice this for? And the answer is I-66. This is not a highway. This is a formula. You practice this association of cue behavior once a day for 66 days. That is how long it takes for a new habit to form. I do have one more story for you. And of all things, it's about pizza delivery. Some of you might remember that in the 1990s, pizza delivery drivers had a reputation for reckless driving. So how did they try and solve this problem? They put up signs in pizza stores that said, "Stop driving recklessly." And we all know already how well this worked. But I'll tell you what did work. When they put different signs in pizza stores, when they picked a single micro behavior, like buckling up, and that's all they focused on. And once these signs that said buckle up were installed in pizza stores, researchers observed the behavior of these drivers in a parking lot. And what they found was truly remarkable. Not only were these pizza drivers buckling up, but they automatically start adopting a whole new set of safe driving behaviors. For instance, they were using their blinkers more often. They were slowing down at stop signs, and they were stopping at stop signs. So this one behavior, this one micro behavior of buckling up started a chain reaction. Without the drivers being aware and without them consciously practicing these different behaviors, they adopted a whole new set of safe driving behaviors. So buckling up, that single micro behavior, started a chain reaction. It became their keystone habit. And as these drivers integrated that new behavior into their self-image, they start thinking of themselves as safe drivers, and they start behaving as safe drivers do. So they would stop at stop signs, they would stop at red lights, they would start using blinkers, and all the behaviors that you can imagine safe drivers do. So this is how a single micro behavior can start a chain reaction and completely transform you. And keystone habits don't just work for pizza drivers. I recently worked with an executive who was trying to improve his influence skills. And he picked one exercise. He started asking about other people's concerns. And once this behavior took root, it transformed him. And he became better not only at influencing, but also at coaching and mentoring, at negotiating, and a whole set of other leadership skills. Now, many of you in the room are probably asking, this is a great idea, but how do I scale it in my organization? And that's where my organization, Pinsight, comes into play. We developed software that allows you to take this idea of building habits and turning leadership into habits, making it as natural as brushing your teeth in the morning or making your bed, and scaling it through the organization. Generally, we follow a three-step process using this software. So first we assess where people are today. What are their skills? What are their strengths and their weaknesses? And then based on that, the software puts together a very short and very targeted development plan that consists of daily exercises. And our Leader Habit app then feeds these daily exercises to people's smartphone, and as they're practicing, the app is modeling their improvement. So in real time, for you as a CLO, you can monitor how people are actually improving, and you can quantify how much they have actually grown. My talk today was based on the research I did for my new book, The Leader Habit, that is available on Amazon and any other bookseller. And it is also the basis of our new software at Pinside. If you're interested, you can get a demo at pinside.com. Thank you.